Hello, CoastLife fans. We love having authors on this show. It's one of my favorite kinds of people to talk to, especially when we have a local connection. And that's what we have here with Dr. Ilona Holland. She's joining us here. She is the author of a number of books, including this brand new one, George Washington's Remarkable Solutions, A World of Science and Technology at Mount Vernon. Dr. Ilona, first, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, thank you.
We're going to get to this book in a minute, but before we do that, I want to start with your story going all the way back to high school in Milford, was that correct?
That's right. I realized we didn't have a school paper. And I thought, well, we should have one. We do good things at Milford, and I'd love to see it promoted. So I mentioned it to the class advisor. A little while went by with nothing, but then I get called to the office.
Always scary.
If you remember in high school, getting called to the office is like terror time. You go, oh my goodness, I know I've done something wrong, but I can't think what it was. Well, Mr. Haythcock was the principal at the time, and he came out and he said, I understand you want to start a newspaper. And I timidly at that point said yes. And then he said, well, I have a surprise. We have gotten a donation of $25 to be able to start the paper, and we would like to do that, and I understand you'd be willing to kind of spearhead it. And I said, absolutely. So our very first paper was purple. I think you're too young to remember mimeograph machines.
Oh, I know what they are.
And they smelled very interesting, but that was we were cranking it, literally cranking it out on a mimeograph machine. And the name of the paper was the Jolly Roger. And do you know that name has stuck, and it's still the high school newspaper.
It's a great name for a paper, so I'm not surprised it's stuck. But that is just a great example of where the germs of your writing began. How did we go from somebody that was writing in a school paper to now being a published author with a number of kids' books? What was sort of that journey? Why was writing always something that was important to you?
It's just a wonderful way of not only exploring your world, but understanding yourself. I wrote poetry in high school. I did the newspaper. I wrote Snooper, which is what it was called, the health newsletter. And all the kids in Delaware got it from kindergarten to fourth grade.
Oh, wow.
So
always kind of, you've had this connection to youth reading.
I have, yes.
You've got books that have been talked about on the Today Show and things like that. What else do we have out in front here?
Well, my very first book was with the National Park Trust, their land conservation organization doing wonderful work. And it's Buddy Bison's Yellowstone Adventure. And that's the one that Hoda Kotb really liked. And I met her at Browse About Books, of all places, in Rehoboth. And she actually took it back and featured it, which was fabulous, as one of her favorite things. And that was my first book, so how lucky can you get? Then the other two are more regional interests. One is about Lewis. It's a time travel book that takes you back to Lewis in 1893.
Another one that would be great for this big 250.
Exactly. And it really looks at a locket that they actually have at the museum in Lewis, but don't know too much about. And that was found on the beach, washed up on the beach. So I created a story around that. And then my third book, previous book, is The Great Explosion, and that is about the explosion of 1818 that occurred in Wilmington at what is now Hagley. And it was the first powder mills that the DuPonts had, and it's a story based on a journal that I found in the archives, thanks to the help of Lucas Clausen, who was a historian there at the time, that was written by Eleonora DuPont about what happened when she was 11. It's amazing how individual the process is and the journeys are for people. Some go a traditional route, some go self-publishing. I have been able to work with historical organizations. So those are three totally different ways of approaching it, and they all can work.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here. We are going to take a quick break here. Don't go anywhere, though. We have more with Dr. Ilona Holland and this great book, The Remarkable Solutions, George Washington's Remarkable Solutions. We'll be right back with some of the books, some of the stories. You will not want to miss it. All right, so we've talked a little bit about the background of Dr. Ilona Holland and how she got interested in writing, but now we're going to get into some of the meat of this great new book. She's still here on the couch. Thank you so much for being here for one more segment.
My pleasure.
We really appreciate it. And Doctor, could you just tell me a little bit about what we might find in this story?
I think what this book presents is a new look at George Washington. It's a look that most people have never seen before. It's him as a scientific thinker and an innovator and a problem solver. And he had this enormous farm that he inherited and he was a surveyor, and all of a sudden he had to be a farmer. And he had to figure out how to make it work. And so that's what this book's about, all of his innovation and problem solving.
We're going into the 250th, anniversary of America, so you've got a book about George Washington, but not just about any part of Washington, specifically about some of the science, the technology that he was interested in. What made this the focus for you? Why did you want this to be the thing that you focused on with our first president?
Well, I had the good fortune of visiting Mount Vernon. I don't know whether you've ever been there, but it is a really interesting place. And I was absolutely awestruck by all the innovations that were being discussed and pointed out by the docents and tour guides and different people who were very knowledgeable there. And I went into the gift shop and saw there wasn't anything on that topic. And then I researched further and I couldn't find anything for kids on that topic. So that's when you really leap at the opportunity to say, I'll do this.
There was a need and you were willing to fill it.
Exactly, and I presented the idea to Mount Vernon and they said, yes, we'd like a book, and they're the ones who published this.
Oh, that's fantastic. Do you have a favorite part or story or piece of information that you came across during the research?
Most of what Washington did was innovation, but he has one thing that comes as close as you can come to invention, and that is his 16-sided barn. He had decided that wheat would be a very important crop. But wheat needs to be threshed. But the old-fashioned way was, can you believe it, to lay it all out on the ground, one of the ways to do this, and to have a horse walk on it in the field.
Seems like not the most efficient.
Well, not the most efficient and not the most sanitary either, if you think about it. So he designed a 16-sided barn, and what that allowed him to do was create something as close to a circle as you could get without having to bend wood, and bending wood is very difficult. And then you take two horses and you lay out all the wheat there and have them tread on it at a trot. The kids love this.
Much safer,
Absolutely.
Much more sanitary.
It's much more sanitary. And this is what I really loved about George Washington, is that he used the scientific method of observing and identifying the problem and then doing some experimentation and keeping track of what worked and what didn't. And he figured out if you left little space between the planks in a barn, the shaft could fall, not the shaft, the kernels could fall through, the wheat germ could fall through, but not the shaft. So he built it as a two-story arrangement, so then the wheat fell through.
It's almost like a gold sluice,
like
the way that it really kind of lets certain things through, but not other things, and then you get the stuff that you want.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here. The book right now, the new book, is George Washington's Remarkable Solutions, A World of Science and Technology at Mount Vernon. And where can people find this if they want to?
They can find it in Rehoboth at Browseabout. They can find it in Lewis at Kids Catch. They can find it in Milford at the Crafty Reader. And they can go to my website.
And is that the same for all your books?
Some of those are also on Amazon. This one's not yet.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. The book looks great. It looks like it's a lot of fun, especially again this time of year, this time in our history as a nation. Great opportunity to share with the kids at home some of the things that our founding father has managed to do. So we are going to take a break. Don't go anywhere.